good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Athlete of the Week, episode 5. Today we have our Athlete of the Week, who is a man who has pivoted from one sport to another. He started off with hockey and football as a child and took him right up through secondary school, where he then turned his attention to powerlifting and engaged in competitions, achieving some lifts such as bench press of 85 kilograms, deadlift of 230 kilograms in competitions, and squat of 160 for reps in competitions. He then turned his attention to Muay Thai after traveling to Thailand and engaged in a 1-month Muay Thai camp where he was hooked, and he's had one fight as well in that. Recently, he has moved to Sheffield, where he started his doctoring career and engaged in the climbing culture of Sheffield, achieving some very impressive climbs in two types of climbing, outside climbing as well as trad. But yes, let's get right into it. And thanks very much for coming on to the show, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me, Thomas.
No worries. Let's go right from the start. We'll go in a chronological sort of view today. So what was your first experiences with sport and athletics as a child?
My parents took me along to soccer. So I grew up in New Zealand, so we used to play soccer instead of football. Slightly different sport.
Yeah, how do you play that? I've never heard of
Yeah,
soccer before.
yeah, slightly different, but yeah, similar to football.
All right, okay.
And then I moved to Belfast. So from there, I was playing hockey mostly. I always sort of tried a little bit of running, which had mixed results, and I was okay when I was younger, but never really committed to it as I got older. Hockey again, mixed results. I had some sort of yeah, it used to be all right, and I was on a few development squads and things, but again, never really sort of went the full, all in to really kind of get become good at it. But I always loved the sport. Like even when I wasn't playing super well or sort of scoring goals or achieving anything great, I was always just having a good time. So
Yeah.
I think that was the priority.
Sounds like
I
you
did
were
grow.
sounds like you were just trying to find your sport and trying different sports when you're younger, and you've always been pretty good at not committing to one sport because you know there's lots of other sports and activities and opportunities out there. I feel like that's what you've sort of done throughout your life. Would you agree with
Yeah,
that? Is that the sort of
yeah,
mindset
I
that
think
you
so.
are in?
I think I like to try new things, and if things start to feel a bit stale, then I try something different. And whatever I'm enjoying at the time, I'll do that. So I did rowing for a year and a half, which I enjoyed, and then
Oh, yeah.
started to get a bit stale, and then went back to hockey, and then when I left school, I sort of it opened up a lot more possibilities with university clubs and the sort of freedom to know that you can just do whatever you want. Um, so if you want to take up a new sport, you just take it up, and if you want to take up a new hobby, you just try it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was your first sport that you really sort of enjoyed and committed to at the start? Was you said football? Um,
Yeah,
was it that? And at the time,
yeah, yeah. I guess when I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional footballer. I wanted to play centre mid, like David Beckham.
okay,
Um,
yeah,
uh, but um, but yeah, and I used to love like cross country running and just anything that got me outdoors and socializing.
yeah. So at the start, then you weren't really taking sport seriously at all. You're just having fun, um, I think probably until rowing, you mentioned there. I remember, so I went to school with you, Jordan. But that was about
That's true.
yeah. So but that was about third year, wasn't it? In school.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. What was the question? Sorry.
Yeah. Rowing was a when you took up rowing, was that
Yeah.
third year or fourth year? And
Yeah, th third year into fourth year.
yeah. So
Um,
you were about 14, 15 then?
yeah,
I feel like that was because rowing was pretty like intense, pretty disciplined. You had to wake up 6:30 a.m., train before school like every day. That
yeah.
was probably, I mean, I want you to answer this, but was that your first sort of time where you took sport seriously, training lots, had to have a lot of commitment, discipline?
Mm,
Um,
yeah, for sure. I think that was the first time. One of the advantages of rowing is that you don't really need to be that disciplined or committed in that the whole like setup is that it's just normal to just go down and train before school and after school. Um, and it's not so much discipline because it's just what's done. So you're not you, it's not willpower. It's just like we train 6 times a week, even though we're like 15, and it's crazy intensity
mhm,
at that age. But it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Really good team spirit and camaraderie, which is one of the things I like about sport.
mhm.
Um,
But then it was after you had a year of rowing, and that was it for you, wasn't it? You didn't want to continue with rowing.
yeah. Um, so you don't have to be tall, but it definitely helps in rowing.
Hmm.
And I think I don't need to be good at something, but at the time I wanted to be good at what I did, and I was decent, but always the guys who were 6'1", 6'2" were always going to be a lot better than I was. I think I was maybe like 5 foot something, like 5'5" when I was 15 or something like that, and so, yeah, I don't think it was a sport for me, but I think it was something that built a good mindset and a good routine of kind of training.
Yeah. And then do you remember what you went on to do from there? I feel like I do. I feel like you went on to gym. You just focused on the gym for a while and like really sort of worked on, you're really quite disciplined at that time, I think, on your nutrition and putting on a bit of weight, putting on a bit of muscle, I think, at that time. Um, would that be right?
Absolutely. I did some very weird things around that time to try and like gain weight. So I would like uh, crack eggs and just drink them in the
Eat them
morning
raw. Yeah.
before school. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get absolutely massive doing this,
Yeah.
and I put on a little bit of muscle, um, but I don't think I needed to eat the raw eggs. Like there were some mornings I literally would drink them and then throw up and be like, ah, shit, that's my breakfast gone,
Yeah.
because it's just so slimy and horrible. The texture. Um, what else did I do?
I
I
think
once
you go for it.
no, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I think I remember Duke of Ed. We went on Duke of Ed, and one of the expeditions, you'd take your protein powder with you
Uh,
in your
I,
bag, and I don't know if you would have it like you couldn't really make it into a shake, so you might have just had it raw, like the protein powder.
that's absolutely possible. I don't remember, but for sure, that sounds
Yeah,
like something I would have needed to do to
yeah.
get my daily protein in. And I would just put like so much in a shake, like mass gainer and protein powder, like so much milk, like 3 bananas, uh, like a massive like tablespoon of peanut butter, and just to
Mm,
try and gain some weight, um, which I eventually did. Whenever I sort of left school, I bulked up to maybe like 10 kilos heavier than I should have been. And I just walked around like this, like feeling massive. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, so that was yeah, that was your journey in school. And I guess all this time you're also still dabbling in hockey. I think you took it more serious at times, but then sort of laid off it, but still were playing it throughout secondary
Mm,
school, is that right?
yeah, we were playing for Harlequins
Hmm.
and school as well, so club and school hockey. And I enjoyed it. Yeah. Um, then and then yeah, and then leaving school, university, it was more about just like trying to look as good as possible. Going to the gym
Yeah.
was so I dropped the hockey leaving school and was just the classic like insecurities. You're like trying to bulk up and trying to look better. Um,
Yeah, so that took you to university then. Um, and I actually don't know. I guess the first, I think you kept playing hockey in university, is that right? Straight away, or did you have a couple of
no,
years off it, or?
I had a couple of years off, and then I came back to it and played one season for Queens, for university team, which was fun. Um, and met some cool people, but, but I think I was a bit older, so there was a really good like social scene for like university hockey, but I was just a bit old for it. So like whenever they're like making the freshers like down horrible amounts of alcohol, I was just like, not really my thing. Um, and because it was my first year playing hockey, even though I was like 4 years into uni, then it was like you're still a fresher, even though you're older.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, so then what took you to Muay Thai? Was it when you were traveling to Thailand, or was there any experience before that where you were thinking about you wanted to do combat fighting or MMA or things like that?
I think it all started. Do you know what I'm going to say, Thomas?
Um,
In
yeah, I
Barcelona?
think I know what you're gonna say. I think it's gonna be it all started because I got into a fight or and I didn't know how to protect myself or
Yeah.
something like that.
Do you remember when we were in Barcelona? What happened?
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Uh,
There we go. Yes. Okay. Tell the viewers what that experience was then in
oh,
Barcelona.
I just so we were all a bit drunk and a bit loose, and we were trying to find our way back to our hostel at
Hmm.
what time was it? 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or
Hmm.
something.
I think later
Um,
than that, maybe like
probably
5 a.m. But yeah.
it was pretty late,
Hmm.
and we were just like walking around Barcelona city, like uh, we'd lost Ian, who is our like route finder, and because we'd either lost Ian or we thought Ian didn't know where he was going, which was a mistake because Ian
Mm.
always knows where he's
Hmm.
going, no matter where he is. So we
Yeah.
like just stopped. Maybe we were asking some people for directions, and then we ended up getting chatting to this group of young people, and then and then JLo, one
Yep.
of our buddies,
I remember this distinctly. Yep.
as far as I remember, it could be completely wrong, but he was like, hug me, brother, to one
Yeah,
of these
that's what I
like
remember as
Spanish
well.
people, and
So
they
yeah,
and they
because
thought he wanted to fight, and
mhm.
so like they just started like, did they just like punch him or kick him or something?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but like there was that language barrier, I guess, and miscommunication, and
Yeah,
Jello being drunk went for the hug quite abruptly, as far as I remember, and then they interpreted that as one thing to have a fight or being confrontational, and I
yeah.
think. Yeah, did any of them have a knife or anything, or was that just my imagination?
I probably, yeah.
But yeah, there was
I don't,
it was a big group of them, wasn't there? It wasn't
it was a
like
lot.
it wasn't even. So what happened next is justified, I think.
We all liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all got the fuck out of there. But me and JLo, well, were a bit slower getting out of there, so we both got punched and kicked. I got punched in the face once, and like literally, I remember it really clear. This guy was just coming up to me and pulled his fist back, and I was just like, "What do I do?" Like I was like, I don't know what to do,
Mm,
and I just got punched in the face. I
yeah.
don't remember. I don't remember it hurting, probably because I was drunk and adrenaline.
Mm,
Um, but I just grabbed JLo and we just sprinted away. So it was after that I was like, I need to learn how to defend myself, and
mm,
it took a little while. I was doing some like kickboxing classes for a little bit, but classes aren't quite like. There's a difference between like martial arts classes and like being in like a proper gym where you're like training, and and yeah, the classes didn't cut it, but eventually I found a couple of different gyms which were super good.
mm,
Training in Thailand and then training with the Queen's Muay Thai club and and a couple of other clubs. Lanka Muay Thai in Belfast is a good gym, and I was on placement in what for one of my hospital placements in Craigavon, and I found this like super hardcore gym that I trained at for a little while, which was really cool. Um,
mm.
yeah, I
What
think that. Sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
what does the training look like on a week to week basis? Is it um for me, I've never done any combat sports. But is it a lot of like grappling and sparring um every session, or do you like go and do like weights as part of it and stretching as part of it and cardio as part of it, or is it when you're there you're training to spar and you do all that other stuff by yourself type thing?
Yeah. So the traditional Thai kind of training session looks like they don't stretch, um, generally because they've been doing it from such a young age that they don't need to stretch. They have all the mobility they need. But the Western sort of gyms will usually start with some stretching. They'll start with some shadow boxing, so you just get warmed up and you move and you get your shoulders working, your hips opened up a little bit, and then once you've done shadow boxing, your heart rate's up a bit and you're warm, and then you do some stretching, um, and then after that, you training pretty much consists of um, three things, four things. So you're either hitting a bag for rounds, so like a punch bag, you're just punching and kicking it. You're hitting pads, so someone's holding pads for you and you're hitting it in combination, um, or sparring. So the sparring is the fun session for sure, but you don't get to spar every session
Mm,
in most gyms. Some will spar at the end of every session, but most will just spar a couple of times a week.
mhm.
Um,
And
and so yeah,
do you have helmets for that when you spar?
it's a very it's a very controversial it's a very controversial issue. Um, the gyms that I've enjoyed training at the most will not wear helmets, and that's because everyone's so controlled. You're not going to get hit or kicked hard in the head. Um, their philosophy is generally, and I agree with this, if you're wearing a helmet, people think they can hit you hard, and then they hit you hard. And the thing that causes head injuries is deceleration of the head or deceleration of the spinal cord.
Mm,
A helmet doesn't really reduce the deceleration, maybe a small amount, but um, basically, if the helmet gets hit, it's going to just hit your head because it's attached to your head and the force will go straight
mhm,
through it.
mhm,
Um, so it kind of encourages people to hit harder and they think it's protected, but it's not. So and I've also tried to find a gym in Sheffield, and the couple that I went to were like, yeah, we wear helmets and we don't, we don't spar by hitting to the head, and you can't get a good session in like that. And in Thailand, they've never trained like that. Um, and, and yeah, I haven't looked at the evidence for head injuries, but I've chatted to loads of Thai fighters who've fought 200 professional fights and trained their whole life, and I don't think they've got brain injuries from it, so they're doing something right.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, fair enough.
yeah,
Yeah. Who knows what the long-term effects are, I guess. Of I
this is
mean,
true.
but yeah, I imagine that will only be applicable to people who constantly week in, week out get
Yeah,
hit in the head, for years and years. So
yeah,
you're probably escaping that. But
yeah. These are guys who start training at age 6 or 7 and
mm,
start fighting at age 10 or 11 and fight until they're in their, until they can't fight anymore. And then they become coaches because their life is just Muay Thai.
yeah,
But and even there, and this is just comparing that to people who, spar once a week. I think I think you're pretty safe to not wear a helmet, and just as long as you trust the guys you're sparring with, and
mm,
the gym has a good ethos of just um, humility and control during the sparring sessions, um, rather than some gyms which are egos and aggression and uh, end up with people getting hurt.
yeah. Um, so you were training Muay Thai for about 2 years, is that right? And
Yeah,
before you decided you wanted to have a bit of competition and go for a fight. Is that right?
that's correct.
And it was during COVID, so you couldn't unfortunately fight someone from a different club. So it was one of your fellow club members that you fought against.
Absolutely. So the coach wanted to get like the guys who he sort of thought were ready to fight, but he wanted to get the guys ready and get them like a first fight. So we had like we called it like an inter club. So um, we just like he just matched people who wanted to fight with someone else in the club of the same weight, and we set a date and a weight class, and tried to set it up like a proper event. Um, so our buddies came down and watched, and we had like a corner, So some of the more experienced guys from the club were like our corner men, and they were just there to like give advice in between rounds. And we got and you always get oiled up before a Muay Thai fight, which makes you slipperier and harder to hold on to. So we got like full getting oiled up and putting they've like they've certain kind of music they always play in. It's like a Thai horn music, and uh, and yeah, he matched me with one of my buddies, Aiden, who's a beast, um, and uh, and I trained really hard for it, and really enjoyed the whole thing. Like I had like the most incredible like 5 rounds with Aiden. Um, he's a beast. He's been training for a lot longer than me, a lot more experienced. Um, and that showed. He dominated, but I was really happy with how I did. Um, Sort of protected myself really well. Didn't take a huge amount of damage. Um, Enjoyed it. Didn't gas out, so I still had a bit of energy left in the tank. And I think I gave a good account of myself. And at the end, the coach, Josh, he's one of the best coaches of any sport that I've ever worked with. And he was like, "I'm really proud of you. Like you gave a really good performance, and it was exactly what I wanted from
Mm,
this." So he didn't want us to like beat the shit out of each other. He wanted us to like show what we'd learned over the last. I'd been training at the gym for about 6 months, and I'd learned loads, and I feel like I put it into practice. And he was really happy with how I did, and I was really happy as well. So
what was that whole experience like fighting someone, like the run up to it, knowing you're gonna step into what you don't call it a ring, do you? You call it
yeah,
a you do
the
call it a
ring,
ring?
yeah,
Yeah, stepping into the ring with someone, like that whole anticipation before the fight and actually being in there with someone. Did you ever have fear going into it? What was your emotions like before and during it?
Yeah, quite a lot of fear. Because I wasn't sure how I would react. Um, I'd sparred a lot, so I was well prepared. So I had some confidence going into it. But sparring, like I said, you're sparring with guys you know and trust, so you don't really get hurt. You might get, winded a little bit, bruised a little bit every now and then, but there's no one who's trying to hurt you. And then when you step into the ring, I think we sort of said we're going to go 75%, 80%, but we, I think I was going pretty much 100%. After getting hit in the face the first time, I was like, right, this is serious. Like we're not messing around here. And
Does the adrenaline just go at that point once you get hit in the head
yeah,
first time and you just know instinctively you just get riled up and you just sort
yeah,
of fight instinctively at that point? Um,
yeah. I'd read a book a few weeks before, um, called Muay Thai Peace at Last,
mhm.
and just to see, if I could get some advice, and he was just talking about as soon as the adrenaline's there, like you're gonna gas out because your heart starts pumping and your muscles like tense up, and your energy, you can just burn it out in 10 seconds. It's like you hear stories about mothers lifting cars off their children, and that's just like when the adrenaline's there, like you can just give like 10 times more
Mm,
than what's normally possible, but that's only for a very brief period. And when you're
mm,
fighting 5 rounds, you can't do that. So it's all about breath work. So it's controlling your breathing. In between rounds, you're just deep breaths, calm, smile, try to get rid of all the adrenaline, and just be fully relaxed. And yeah, that's probably like the most important thing. So anytime if you're going into a fight, maybe not in the street. Never
mm.
been in like a street fight since getting punched in the face.
Okay.
Uh, I've broken up some street fights where you just like shout at some people, and then they managed to break up a couple, but I haven't actually been in one, but might be different in that sense. But in a 5 round fight or even a 3 round fight, it's controlling the adrenaline,
Mm.
relaxing, letting your training kind of come through. And
Yeah, interesting. I suppose the adrenaline thing might work for some fighters. Like I feel like Mike Tyson was quite good because he went for the knockout
mhm,
pretty early on in his first,
yeah,
I can't remember, 30 or so fights, but he would just like be so dominant and just get the knockout pretty early
yeah,
every time. But if it was to go longer, then he would start to maybe struggle. Um, but yeah, if you're not someone like Mike Tyson, you need to bide your time, and if especially
mhm,
in Muay Thai when there isn't going to be an early knockout in most instances, you have to learn to control your energy over the whole time. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, some people just have that knockout power, and some people are just natural fighters where they have like a sixth sense for when to give that sort of the power shot or the adrenaline. But um, for most people, it's a patience.
Mm.
And,
Well, listen. So we'll go on to your climbing now.
all
So
right.
you after that fight, essentially, you sort of, I think you decided, or you're very quickly gonna you're moving to Sheffield anyway, but you're planning to find a new gym in Sheffield that would do Muay Thai, but there wasn't really any good one. So, but there were an abundance of climbing opportunities. I think that's probably more of the culture in Sheffield. So you
Yeah,
decided to give that a go. Is that right?
absolutely spot on, Thomas. Uh, Sheffield is kind of the climbing capital of the UK. It's not necessarily the best climbing in the UK. There's really good climbing in Scotland and North Wales and South Wales as well, Pembrokeshire. But Sheffield's one of the places where it started, and there is an abundance of excellent climbing spots. 15 minutes drive from the city, 20 minutes drive. If you have to drive 30 minutes, there's enough climbing for a lifetime in the Peak District. So yes, a lot of my buddies and the guys I live with as well are into climbing. So I just started going along to the indoor gyms, and I was like, yeah, this is all right. Like I could do this. I still kind of wanted to find a fighting gym, but in the meantime, I was like, I'll do a bit of climbing. And I've always loved the outdoors. And when one of my buddies was like, "Oh, I'm going bouldering outdoors," I was like, "I'll come along." So I went along with him, and I love that you just go to this beautiful nature spot, and there's just rocks and boulders and cliffs surrounding you, and you check your guidebook and you're like, oh, there's one boulder problem there on that rock, and there's three on that one, and there's more on the other side, and you just like try them, and it's really free in more senses, both senses of the word. So you feel really free. You're just out in nature, but also it doesn't cost anything. You can just go out and climb whenever you want.
Yeah.
Um,
And your goal with climbing is really just to have fun, isn't it? And get outside and make the most of your time off work and recharge rather than trying to achieve a certain thing in the sport or a particular performance. Is that right?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, one of my lecturers at uni always said like if you're laughing, you're learning. So I think if you're having fun, you're learning. And my goal is to just have as much fun as possible, um, try as many different things as possible, and just enjoy it. And I think I am. I'm improving loads. So um, I think from when I first went out, I was climbing like the hardest grade I'd done was maybe the first couple of sessions I climbed was the grade it's a 5B, and then going up from there there's 5C, 6A, 6B, 6C, and then 7A. And I just recently did my first 7A. So I've made good progress and just had a great time. And I don't really train for climbing. I just climb. Um,
Yeah.
so
It's sort
it's
of like a lifestyle that you're having fun with and you're naturally
mm,
progressed in this time by just having
mm,
fun.
absolutely, it's one of these lifestyle sports that um, you kind of see people enjoying, and you feel jealous. Like there's people who live in the east coast of Australia who just live to surf, and you're like, oh, that would be really fun, but I'm not a surfer, and you see them, or people who live in Chamonix in the Alps and just snowboard all winter. Um, but climbing is another one of these lifestyle sports where you can just immerse yourself in it. Like you can do it nearly every day if you want, and you can go out every weekend, and you can go on holiday to climbing places, and you go on road trips to climb, and you can you just it can really take over your life in a really positive way. And I love the opportunity to see like beautiful places and places that I wouldn't necessarily get out to, and be outdoors and enjoy the weather, and just hang out with your buddies, and you form a really good bond as well with the guys you're climbing with, because you have to trust them. If you're bouldering, you're trusting them to spot you when you fall, and if you're lead climbing, you're trusting them to catch you on the rope if you fall. So yeah, you form a really good bond with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like there's a whole different set of skills that you've just described which are different to all the other sports you've done, but and there's some that are similar. So you've taken maybe like the discipline, commitment, and dedication from the sports you've done previously, but also picked up new skills from the new sport that you've done, like climbing. Then you're learning to trust, you're learning to let go, have fun as well. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I guess I just want to ask about your overall message. I mean, you're someone that has constantly pivoted from one sport to another, not stayed in the same field. And I imagine in the next few years, I wouldn't be surprised if you suddenly stop becoming a climber and immerse yourself in something else. Like you've just said, you're not a surfer, but I would not be surprised if you do become a surfer. So, but what is that mindset like? The one that's constantly challenging your identity and moving on to the next thing and trying something new. What are the benefits to that, and how are you so good at that?
Well, thank you for saying I'm good at it. I think I think the important thing for me. I was watching your podcast with Sharky, and I saw he had a great final message, but
Yeah, no
I
pressure.
didn't think. Yeah, I know. I didn't think of one in time. I think part of it is just not being attached to an identity, because for me, if I get attached to an identity, it can lead to more suffering. For example, when I was young, I wanted to be a professional footballer, and if I'd become attached to that identity of a footballer, um, then I would maybe lose the identity of being other things, you know. So I think if you don't identify too heavily with one thing, I don't identify like I work as a doctor, but I don't identify as a doctor. You know, neither do I identify as a climber or a runner or a fighter, um, or anything. I guess the only thing actually I identify at the moment is a Buddhist. So, and part of that is just the non-self of philosophy that you know you don't really exist in the as an individual, and everything that you think is real is maybe not real, and everything that you think is important is not important, and we could be totally wrong about everything that we believe. So um, I think it's really challenging a lot of my beliefs, and I think quite naturally I'm able to not identify. So that's one aspect that comes quite naturally. I don't identify necessarily as one thing, but for sure we have strong attachments to lots of things, or I have lots of strong attachments to things, and I think you can get more joy if you reduce your attachments, for sure. And I've had a lot of joy from my physical kind of my sports that I've done, and over
Great.
time I've had more and more joy by just not attaching to any one sport or any one
Amazing.
identity.
Amazing. That's very equally as inspiring, I would say, definitely. So just don't get attached and do what you want. Be free. I think that's your message. So
I think so.
yeah, great. Great to have you on the show, Jordan. Thanks very much.
Tom, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
It's been a pleasure.
no worries. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you
Um,
so much, everyone.
see you next time on Athlete of the Week. Goodbye. Bye.